I've got a DM from a New Zealand citizen who just messaged me and saying, hey, can you make a video about how do New Zealand residents buy property in Australia? And this is the video. So first of all, there's 3 categories of a New Zealand resident who are buying in Australia, now listed in a table right now. So the 3 categories is number 1 is Kiwi, which is the New Zealand resident, living and working in Australia and wanting to buy a property in Australia. Option number 2 is you're a Kiwi and you're living in New Zealand, but you want to buy a property in Australia. And option number 3 is you're a Kiwi, but you're living in overseas. For example, you're not in Australia or New Zealand, but you want to buy a property in Australia. Let's go to the first one. So the first option, which is a Kiwi living and working in Australia and want to buy a property in Australia, the option is very easy. You can opt for the 95% plus lender's mortgage insurance. Or if you don't want the lender's mortgage insurance capitalized into a loan, you can apply for the first home guarantee scheme. It's available to you after the 1st of July this year. And all you need is a 5% deposit. And if you're buying, for example, in Sydney, anything over 800K, you need to have money for the stamp duty, which works out to be 4% of the purchase price. Now, just on a side note over here, if you're a non-New Zealand citizen, but living in Australia on a 461 visa, which is a New Zealand family relationship visa, you can also apply for the 95% plus LMI scheme and also be up for the first homeowners grant scheme as well. Next, you have a Kiwi living in New Zealand, but wants to buy a property in Australia, for example, for investment purchases. So banks like ANZ and Westpac can do 70% loan ratio of the property. However, mind you, if you're buying in Queensland, there will be a foreign acquirer stamp duty applied to the existing stamp duty of 45%. So you've got to slap on another 7%. So be careful, guys. And the final category is a Kiwi living overseas, an expat, but not living in Australia and New Zealand. For example, you live in the US, but you want to buy a property in Australia for investment purposes. Now, similar to category 2, it will be 70%. You then got to add on your 4 to 5% stamp duty, depending on which state you purchase. And if you're purchasing in Queensland, again, foreign acquirer stamp duty required, you have to slap on another 7% in category number 3. Now, guys, in terms of interest rates for category 1, you would be treated like a normal Aussie. So rates are between 5.4 to 6% variable principal interest. However, you're doing category 2 and 3, the interest rate between 5.5 to 7%, especially for this one where you're living overseas, expat, and you're buying in Australia. And just a last note to my Kiwi followers that follow this channel is that I can't get you a loan to buy a property in New Zealand. I can get you a loan to buy a property in Australia-wide, but not New Zealand, because my credit license doesn't allow me to go over there. I hope that's really helpful for my Kiwi followers. Jump in the comments and let me know if you have any other questions.